Imagine yourself and a total stranger coming together to make a deal worth of millions of dollars without needing a lawyer, without needing a bank, and without necessarily needing a middleman to mediate this agreement. How is this possible? And yet, this deal is real, is authentic. Nobody can change it, nobody can edit it. The contract stays permanently, is safe somewhere permanently. How is this even possible? We come together as strangers, we strike a deal worth millions of dollars without a lawyer, without a bank, without a middleman to mediate this deal, without someone standing as a witness to mediate this deal. And yet, this deal is authentic. This deal is 100% safe and cannot be modified by any party. How is this possible? This is the power of smart contracts on the blockchain. Hello everyone. You are welcome once more to the MDB Crypto Academy. In our previous lesson, we spoke about miners. We discussed about miners, how miners come together or a group of computers comes together to compete. They compete in solving complex mathematical puzzle. And the computer that successfully solved this puzzle is the computer choosing to add the next block on the blockchain and is rewarded in Bitcoin. We also discussed about validators. Validators are a group of individuals that comes together and stake their crypto holdings on a blockchain network. And this is mostly common on blockchains network that function based on the proof of stake. They stake their cryptocurrency and in turn, they are given the power to be the next validator to add the next blockchain on the blockchain network. So the higher someone stake, the higher the chances of him being selected to be the next person to add a block on the blockchain network. So in today's lesson, we are going to be discovering one peculiar thing about blockchain itself. We call it smart contracts. So we are going to be discussing on smart contracts. We are going to understand how smart contracts actually work. Smart contracts are simply agreements. We are going to understand how this agreement can actually work between just two individuals without anyone mediating this contract, without anyone to sign this contract, just the sender and the receiver, which is a good means of decentralization on the blockchain network. So in today's lesson, like I said, we are going to be breaking down smart contracts for us to understand how smart contracts actually work, how secure are smart contracts, and the real life usage of smart contracts. What are smart contracts? Smart contracts are self-executing digital agreement. Self-executing digital agreement stored on the blockchain. They automatically execute agreement between two parties when specific conditions are met. So smart contracts are self-executing. They are programs that are, think of smart contracts like a computer that has been programmed to sign contracts between two opposite parties when certain conditions are met. Those conditions must be met by both parties before a contract can be signed. And once a contract agreement is signed, like I said, a smart contract is an agreement. Yeah, a self-executing agreement. A self-executing digital agreement that is stored on the blockchain network. So when these two parties they come together, they want to execute a transaction. What smart contract does is it makes sure the conditions are met before this contract can be signed and executed. And once this contract is signed and executed, it is stored permanently on that blockchain network. in such a way that no party can go behind and modify this contract. These contracts are safe permanently. They are uneditable. You cannot edit it. No one can go and delete it once they are safe on the blockchain network. So smart contracts are the agreement that it acts like the middleman in this case. Like we said, in the smart contracts, we don't need a lawyer, we don't need a bank, we don't need a middleman to mediate these transactions. Once these conditions are met by both parties, automatically smart contracts are signed, and once they are signed and executed, they are saved on the blockchain network permanently. How smart contracts work? So how are smart contracts being executed? They function based on a simple principle, like I was explaining. They must, these both parties must meet the specific criteria, specific conditions that are programmed on the blockchain network. For example, if A signs a contract to transfer assets, automatically that contract is executed, indicating a transfer of ownership to B. But if B doesn't receive those coins that has been transferred by the sender, no contract is signed and no contract is executed on the blockchain network. So smart contract makes sure that the the sender is in possession of the coins the person want to send. Mostly happen with Ethereum. They take, for example, the sender has 1 Ethereum and the sender wants to transfer this 1 Ethereum to to receiver. The sender execute this transfer of ownership. Was the sender initiate this transfer of ownership, a smart contract is executed waiting for confirmation of the receiver to make sure that these coins are actually being transferred. If the coins are successfully transferred to the receiver, a contract is made, and this contract is made based on the fact that the sender sent this Ethereum, the sender signed an agreement indicating that he has transferred this 1 Ethereum to the receiver. So he has simply transferred the ownership from him to the receiver. Now, it doesn't end there. The receiver has to receive this coin in his wallet. When he receives this coin, an agreement has finally been concluded to make sure that now the receiver is the owner of this 1 Ethereum. The ownership has been transferred from the sender to the receiver, and hence this transaction is now recorded on the blockchain network. And once it's recorded on the blockchain network, there is no one that can modify this transaction. The sender cannot modify it, the receiver cannot modify it. The transaction record is stored on the blockchain network permanently. So you see how transparent this is when it comes to smart contracts. No one can just execute a transaction without meeting these specific conditions. Once these specific conditions are met, a transaction is made and a contract is made. When that contract is being agreed by both parties, an agreement is finally made and these contracts are safe on the blockchain network. It's also common in cases of people that buy NFTs, non-fungible tokens. We are going to talk about non-fungible tokens when we start talking about tokenization. We'll start discussing about tokenization. We'll talk about tokens. You also understand what I mean by NFTs. NFTs are just images painted on the digital network that someone can own it. So this is mostly common when the painter want to sell the NFT. The painter execute this transfer to the buyer. The buyer is what we call transfer of ownership. The buyer now buys this painting. When the buyer buys this painting, the buyer now is the owner of that painting, and a contract has been made, an agreement has been made in such a way that the painter cannot repaint that particular image to sell to someone else. Only the buyer owns that particular piece of art. So smart contracts are very transparent when it comes to executing, because if those conditions are not met by both parties, they are not going to be executing. There's not going to be a contract that is executed between the two parties. Importance of smart contracts. So we can see that smart contracts have actually come in to replace the way agreements are made by humans. It has also replaced trust in the manner in which agreements are being executed by humans. So instead of relying on humans or the media people to execute contracts between people, smart contracts actually come in to change that manner by a set of written code. Now, smart contracts now run on the blockchain. It is transparent. Many companies are using smart contracts. Freelancing companies, hospitals, real estate, food chain supply, they are using smart contracts to execute, because like we said, they are automatically executing. They are self-executing. Once these conditions are met, they execute. So smart contracts are very secure. They are transparent. They are easy to be executed, and they also manage this time. It don't take long to execute these smart contracts. Once these conditions are met, contracts are executed automatically, and they are signed they are signed when those conditions are met, and they are stored permanently. So he has also come to revitalize, to change the way people are saving contracts, change the way individuals are actually saving contracts. So as the blockchain network is improving, as it's growing, there's also a mass adoption of smart contracts. People are actually adopting smart contracts in order to be executing agreements between parties, especially industries. They are actually adopting the smart contracts. I hope you enjoyed yourself in this one, because it was a brief one. It was a brief one. I just needed to throw more light on how smart contracts are working. And of course, we are talking about smart contracts, you should mostly think of Ethereum, because Ethereum is working based on smart contracts. This is the first cryptocurrency that came in writing smart contracts with the idea of smart contracts, Ethereum. So in our next lesson, we are going to be discussing about blockchain explorers. We are going to discuss briefly on blockchain explorers. If you are enjoying yourself, you are learning, if you are following up, please do where to like, subscribe, you share, you invite others, and you stay tuned to the channel. I will see you in the next one. And until then, you stay blessed.